Je commence? Okay. My name is Michel Buffat. I'm professor at the University of Nice, and I will talk about audio on the web and give a brief story of where we started from with audio on the web and when we are today. So the first part of my talk will be about more historical data, what happened, who has made what, how it was 30 years ago, and so on. And the second part will be more a set of demos, interactive demonstrations that I will show some videos about what struck me and the group that made web audio work on the web at W3C. Every year we saw a very impressive demo that pushed the limits of what can be done. And this is what I will show during the second half. So who am I? I told you, a professor at the University Côte d'Azur, but I am also the member of a research group that is common to INRIA and I3S Lab from CNRS. And I do part of my research about web audio as a research domain. And you can see me with a colleague from CNRS, Jérôme Lebrun, on the right. We've been working on tube guitar amplifier simulations and so on. But I am also the W3C Advisory Committee representative, we say AC rep, of my university. So my university is member of the W3C, is paying a membership, and I represent my university, so I can be part of working groups to help making the web standards. So I participated to the creation of HTML5, some small parts, and since 2015, I'm a member of the W3C Web Audio Working Group that started developing the web audio technology. I'm also the co-creator of a Web Audio Module 2.0, a proposal for a high-level web audio plugin standard, sort of VST for the web. We've been working on this since 2015 with professional developers, people from the industry, and academic people like Stefan Letz from Gram. And some of the web audio plugins I've wrote are now commercialized by the CNRS, in particular 3 or 4 plugins for simulating tube guitar amplifiers and some audio effects. So I'm also the PhD co-supervisor of Xiong Ren, who presented GS Patcher, a sort of Max MSP ported to the web. It was a previous presentation. So I'm not going to talk about this demo, as you've got more details with Xiong paper and video. So before 1996, only the old ones with gray hair knew this period. We barely could hear any sound on a browser. So the web pages look like that. This is my actual homepage that I keep for archaeological reasons. So it's been created in 1993. It's HTML1. CSS did not exist. JavaScript did not exist. And as you can see, I've wrote a www tutorial in 1994 when I was at Carnegie Mellon University. I've been asked to create the website of the university, and in that time you could count the website on the fingers of your 2 hands. So I added in 1996 some videos created with a Silicon Graphics computer, and with these videos you needed to download them and play them offline. It wasn't playable on the browser, so no multimedia in that time. After 1996, we started to be able to listen to some audio streams or audio files and see some video, but it was horror and joys, and mostly horrors. So Microsoft was dominating the browser market and decided that they could rule the web. So they created some extension to HTML that worked only in Internet Explorer. And among them, there was the infamous BG Sound HTML tag, also known as the worst possible way to use audio on the web. And this is how it looked like, BG Sound SRC equal. And when the page was loaded, it started playing background music, supported browser, in that time, only Internet Explorer. And these are some answers from the Microsoft support site. I found them yesterday, so I did the screenshot yesterday. The BG Sound tag is a non-standard and IE specific, Internet Explorer specific. Firefox does not support it because someone came to a web page that could not play the music and ask the question. So this is a message from 3 years ago. Then we had another horror story called the native plugin era. If you wanted to listen to, let's say, a radio stream, you had to install the Real Media Player. Who knew this Real Media Player? Yes, some of you. Okay, but it worked only on Windows. Later on, it was available on Mac, and I think it never came out for Linux, for example. And it couldn't read not all the file formats. And you had to install it for the different browser. Then you had the QuickTime plugin for Internet Explorer to see some video or to listen to audio. And you had to install a version for Netscape, the ancestor of Firefox, a version for Mosaic, a version for the different browser. And it could play only a few codecs. And then we had a portable solution called Java Applets, with a very nicely looked GUIs. They are awful, frankly. I don't know who designed the default look and feel, but at least you could write your own audio player and choose the buttons and so on, but it was ugly, and you had to install not a plugin, but the whole Java runtime on each browser. And finally, we have also another infamous thing from Microsoft called the Windows Media Player add-on that worked only on Internet Explorer. And it was the only way to listen to MP3 for a long time. We had some better solution, but it was also proprietary. It was the Flash audio and video players that were available everywhere and 2 years late on Linux, with bad performances, and you could generate some HTML code with an object tag. And YouTube was using the same technology at the beginning. And you saw things like that, Macromedia, Flash Player, please install Flash, and so on. And most of the time when you were playing with different browsers and all these native add-ons, you had this, error loading media, file could not be played. Because it was the era of the first codec war. You couldn't be sure that your MP3 or DVI file will be loadable anywhere. However, with a little struggle, we had grid applications. So one came very late, so it was killed as soon as it appeared. JavaFX was a sort of new evolution of the Java runtime that proposed a vectorial GUI that looked much better than what I showed earlier. And we had such applications with some audio FX library. No sound. Ah. Okay, at least we had some sound processing, an equalizer, some view meters. So it was really cool to see that at that time, and it was you could develop applications and so on, but it was killed by HTML5 that came the same year, and what people were doing with Flash still in that time were much impressive. And the most impressive application was Audio Tool, created by André Michel, who is selling this to schools, high school, and university, mostly for pedagogy. It's a virtual studio environment with many synthesizers, mixing tables, effects, and so on. So let me show you how it looked like at the time.
Allez, pour finir cette vidéo.
And you see it came with lots of different components you could assemble. And today it has been ported to HTML5 and it works with JavaScript and new technologies. And I know André Michel he will do a keynote at the next Web Audio Conference showing incredible stuff. So this, in that time, was a great application. Sorry. Let me go. Okay. So between 1996 and 2011, so barely 15 years, nothing evolved. So except that in 2012, we had the first implementations of the audio and video HTML standard tags from HTML5. So it was a revolution because we could replace the Flash audio players by something standard that could work on any browser. But look at that, audio control source src sound.og sound.mp3. You had to, it was a recommendation to provide different codecs so that you can be sure that Firefox will play the OGG file because it did not support the MP3 file format at the time. So we had the second codec war. So it was only in 2015 that you could be sure to play an MP3 file with Firefox, for example. And this audio player, it was the same for the video player, came with a rather complete JavaScript API. So you could, for example, listen to events while it was playing and do some screen synchronization. But you could not process the sound. You could not display some visualization, no FFT, no analyzing. It was not possible. And if you wanted serious audio application in that time, it was Flash or die. Use Flash application, install Flash. If you were on Linux, bad luck. But we saw some impressive DAWs like Soundation and Audio Sauna. Both of them still exist. They have been ported to modern technologies, but they appeared during this era, and they were quite impressive. Also in terms of look and feel, they are very nice GUIs. It was all vectorial, very short in size, so very impressive. In 2010, so I'm a bit overlapping between my time segments, we saw first browser API for audio processing. That means that using JavaScript, we could process the sound, and it was proposed by Firefox. Firefox guys proposed the audio data API in 2010. It was a very simple API. You used an audio player, and you could link that to a process function that will get the input buffer, audio buffer, and the output audio buffer, and you could process the sample. So you could compute a FFT, write some effects. They had demos of beat detection, delay, effect, and here is a demo of a real-time visualization. We can only find a few remainings of this area. So what should strike you is how not smooth it is. and in fact, it was a failure. It was well designed, but it relied on just JavaScript to do all the processing. And JavaScript in 2010, we had no just-in-time compiler. The performances were bad. The CPUs available on most computers was not powerful enough to do serious processing. So in fact, they had a very good design, but not so good demos. And at the same time, in 2010, we had somebody called Chris Rogers that is a pioneer in the audio world because he created Core Audio for Apple, and he was one of the main engineers working on Logic Audio. So the guy came from Apple to Google for developing extended audio processing in the browser, mainly for the Android, the Google TV boxes. He has been asked to be able to play 5.1 movies, you know. But in fact, he proposed something very inspired by Core Audio with the concept of an audio graph. So you could design in JavaScript an audio graph, for example, with different source nodes connected to filters, connected to a wave shaper, to a panner for spatialization, and mixologies to a convolution reverb, a dynamic compressor, and so on. So you write in JavaScript the user interface, the creation of the nodes, and you set the parameters, but all the DSP processing was done in the browser, in C++, so very efficient. So they had more impressive demos than Firefox, and also, Google was Google. So I'm going to show you what happened, but this was the concept. This is a demo, a tool from a Japanese guy that shows the audio graph, and you can, normally, I've got a link, yes. So this uses the current Web Audio API, of course, and so you've got different nodes with properties. This one is playing buffer audio source node playing a WAV file, and you connect it to a delay node. You can make some feedback loops, add some gains. You can add some controllers. So the controllers are just a GUI to be able to set up some properties. So let's start. Okay. So if I increase the delay time, so you've got a delay effect. And this translates automatically to JavaScript code, very simple. So this was the concept. But in that time, when he proposed that, he had an experimental implementation in Chromium. They had impressive demo, but the answer for Mozilla was that API looks extremely complicated. It looks like it will be a huge amount of work to get a precise spec with interoperability across diverse implementations. So if we had to implement this specification that was already quite big, how to be sure that in Firefox, when it is re-implemented, because the web standards need to have two different implementations to be validated by the W3C. How to be sure that the filter will sound the same. So they needed to add all the algorithms, explaining all the filters should be implemented and so on. So the spec became, well, looked like it will be a very big document. So Google was Google and won the war. So because mainly they were the principal financer of the Mozilla, the Mozilla Foundation. So as they were giving millions of dollars to Mozilla, they said, please, okay, we would like you to join us and do what we propose. And they finally agreed. And they had online demos that I cannot run today because the specifications change and so on. But they were running very smoothly, especially the visualizations. So from 3 frames per second, they had 60 frames per second demonstrations that were killer apps. So finally, they also proposed lots of impressive demos. This is a web page that was very well known from people interested in web audio in that time, called Web Audio Demos. So we had input effects, real-time input effects, recorder, analog scenes, MIDI demonstrations, and so on. I will come back to this page later. So this pushed all these guys to create a W3C web audio working group that first started to write the spec and finally make implementations in browsers. So on the right, you've got a picture from the last year where I was attending a meeting. So we got a meeting every week or every 2 weeks, mostly remotely. So here in the group, you can see Paul Adeno from Mozilla, who is implementing web audio in Firefox, and he was also in charge of the specification. Raymond Toy and Hong Chan Choi from Google. Philippe Milo from Audio Kinetics. He ported the famous WISE audio engine that is included in Unreal to WebAssembly and included in Unity for generating web games. You've got Matthew Paradis from the BBC that is using web audio for streaming sport events with spatialized sound. You've got Jack Shadler from Ableton. You've got Russ John that is a creative developer, and you had me. Some of the people there are just making demos and trying to show if it works, if it's correct, or serve as a link with their own community. I'm not a core implementer of web audio, for example, but I've wrote demos and I made some measures for the group. And sometimes we meet also in person, 2-3 times a year. And sometimes also we celebrate things. So it was the next. It's in the next slide. But what happened in 2011, the spec became huge. It is today the third longest specification of all the specification for web standards, except CSS, because they cheated, they cut it in different pieces. But it's a huge document. A lot of work has been made to be sure it is implemented and sounded the same on all browsers, so it was in that time. And in 2012, we had first implementations in Firefox and WebKit. And I presented web audio demos at the web conference that was called WWW 2012 in Lyon. And Stéphane Letz and Yann Orlaré invited me to go to Gram to present this. And then these guys started to focus on having web audio as a target for compiling the first language. So in 2012, we had also a link between the Web Audio API for writing audio application and the Media Capture and Stream API that was in charge of working with sound cards, webcams, different live inputs. So then it is the time when I plugged my guitar into a sound card and tried to process some sound, and the latency was horrible, so I pushed the group to provide some low latency solutions. It was not the only one. And also we had the first draft of the Web MIDI API, and Chris Wilson. Chris is a legend in the history of the web. He created a Mosaic for Windows in 1993. And after that, he's been hired by Microsoft just to be in charge of the Internet Explorer projects. And he finally left Microsoft to go to Google, where he's in charge of web standards, and he's been involved in the web audio and web MIDI APIs for a long time, and he wrote some of the most impressive demos from the early days. So this is for his story. Another event in the history was that in 2012, 2013, people from Mozilla started to create a subset of JavaScript called ASM.js, like assembly for JS, and it was mainly designed to be a target for cross-compilation of C, C++ code, because they had a lot of pressure, in particular for the people from Epic who made the Unreal Engine. So there was a port of the Unreal Engine, Unreal 3 at the time in 2013, and they ported the Monster Madness, that was a AAA game available on PC and game console, to the web. And it worked, except that the sound was crackling, and we had glitches because it was running in the main thread, the UI thread. So if you started to move your mouse or resize the window, the sound was bad. So the Web Audio Working Group was alerted in that time, and everyone said we need something better for custom DSP code, cross-compiled code, and so on. So 2018 and 2022, because just the last browser to support that is Safari. It's a bad support, but it came recently. A special node for the available in the Web Audio API called the Audio Worklet allowed custom DSP code, but processed in the audio thread with a high priority, so with some constraints. I'm not going into details. And then it was interesting because when we had the first implementations, some big players from the computer music industry arrived. So Propeller Heads, the creators of Reasons, proposed this thing called, it is Europa. So they are selling it also as a VST, but they had a web version for demonstrating it that is not being sold, but it was just for demonstration purposes. Oh, it doesn't work. Don't have any. So this is the real sound. So what is interesting here is that first you've got a very high quality sound engine. Secondly, everything was packaged as web components, and web components was also a standard that was proposed by the W3C to make sort of reusable widgets that acted as black boxes. So when you download this in your web page, you got no conflicts between CSH, HTML tags, IDs, or JavaScript variable, function, classes, and so on. And every button here is also a web component. So you could use web component into web components. So this makes this thing loadable just using a simple URI, like you would load an image. So what is your plugin? This is the URL. You can load it. And now it is included as a web audio plugin in the Soundation digital audio workstation in Amped Studio. So they are selling it now. But when it came, we could talk with the people who made the port, and it was very interesting because they pushed the limit at the time. So we had to adjust a little bit some part of the specification. Because it's a living standard, so during all these years, as it wasn't a frozen standard, we could make some small modifications. It's only in 2021, I will talk about this, that it became a frozen standard. So what was interesting is that at the same time, we had the WebSockets API that opened the door to collaborative synchronous applications, to video conferencing applications, to chats and so on. We had web component. We had WebAssembly that was a better version of ASM.js that was a common effort between Microsoft, Mozilla, Google, and Apple, yes. So it was a nicer way to run low-level cross-compiled code with good performances. 2021, the API, the Web Audio API version 1 became a recommendation. That means a recommendation is a frozen standard. So that means that if you read the specification of version 1, if a browser implements it, nothing is going to change. And we celebrated that, you know, in Seattle. This is Chris Wilson driving a boat on the Seattle River. We had an in-person meeting there at Xbox Research. and we drank champagne on the boat. So this happened. So it started in 2020, 11 years to get to a frozen standard. So this is so today we are still working actively on version 2, and we are taking into account what the comments on the GitHub by developers on the issues. We conducted a developer survey, and for example, now we will be able to specify precisely the size of the audio buffer. Before, you could ask for an interactive audio buffer or an audio buffer for not real-time processing. You could translate this between 128 samples to 512, but you couldn't be sure. You had to measure to know the actual size. And I presented the plugin standard I am working on. We'll talk about this later. And to the W3C dev track at the recent web conference that was in Lyon, the biggest conference about web technologies. And the people from the W3C said that now we are involved also in application level standards, not only browser low level standards. So if you're interested to make a W3C real labelized standard of your plugin proposal, come back to us. We will help you write a specification, make tests, make a documentation, and so on. So this is new. They started with autonomous cars, protocol standards, and so on to standardize applications. So now I stop with all the historical facts, and I will show some notable demos that we saw sometimes every year at the working group. We saw a demo and we say, wow, incredible. How did they make this? Oh, we didn't know with the spec and the implementation it was possible to do that. And I am happy because I am one of them. When I arrived to the working group, one day I had my guitar. So they've been working for 2 days, about the issues on GitHub. And the third day, Chris Wilson, that was the chair of the group, said, Michel, let's make a break. What are you doing with your guitar? So I showed them, and they were a bit like this, so I was happy. Yes, it was a good motivation. So in 2011, 2015, at the very early days of the available implementations, we had Chris Wilson demos. So I can show you, I hope they're going to work. So this is the input effect demo. So he implemented real-time visualization with some reverb, distortion, stereo chorus. So he implemented all these effects, standard effects, using only high-level audio nodes. No custom DSP was provided here, just a few lines of JavaScript code to create nodes and assemble a graph, and you could have some nice effects. Let's select, for example, I don't know which one. I don't know. Ping pong delay. Yeah, okay. So there is some latency, maybe it's because of the HDMI display, I don't know. Or maybe the demo were old and there was it didn't specify the size of the audio buffer. So we had also a synthesizer that used, oh, no, it's not loading. Okay, let's try another one, maybe this one. Yeah, okay. Okay, so this one was a FM synthesizer, but it used WebMIDI. It was the first demonstration of WebMIDI available. It used web components, and these buttons are web components. So it relies on a library called Polymer that Google was making at the time. So this inspired a lot of people. And I was mainly inspired by the input effect for developing my guitar stuff. But this was a milestone, Jalon in the history. Then we had a guy called Yotam Man that was working, I think, at Google, and now he's freelance. He developed the Tone.js JavaScript library that proposed higher level instruments and effects for, JavaScript developers mainly. So he had some tom pitch shifter, some lots of synthesizer. Can try something. I don't know. So this was a the sound is synthesized, and so on. And Tone.js is used in tons of projects. And people are using that for gaming, for making games, and so on. So this was also an important thing. In 2015, we had also a graphic web audio debugger in Firefox. Because before we were blind. We could only look at the code and visualizing mentally the graph. But sometimes your application can have thousands of nodes or hundreds of nodes. The vocoder that Chris Wilson wrote has several thousand of nodes. So, sorry. Normally I've got a demo here. Yeah, this is something I've wrote, but I'm going to run it in Firefox to show you the current debugger. So this is a guitar tube amp simulation. So normally it should work with my guitar. Let me try. So I can reload the page and activate the web audio debugger, and then I can see the graph that is being displayed dynamically, and I can zoom in, I can click on the graph. So for example, I guess that this bank of filters here corresponds to the equalizer here. So if I click on one of them, I can look at you see the gain that is changing here and checking that everything is okay. And it's dynamic. I mean, if you look at the graph somewhere here, if I'm activating some of the stuff, the graph is redisplayed. So it's really a dynamic tool for debugging. So sometimes when something sounds strange and doesn't behave correctly, it's cool to rely on this debugger. So other things, 2015, we've got a first proposal for web audio plugins called Web Audio Module by Jari Klemola and Oliver Larkin. So it was mainly an effort to port existing VST plugins to the web. So I remember at the first web audio conference in Paris when Jari Klemola showed that, everyone was like this, how did he do that? So he had some ports of the Yamaha DX7. Let me show you with incredible user interface for the time, at the time. So and he even managed to load the preset banks from the Yamaha website. So everything was working like, and every button was a web component, so everything was interactive. He ported also the Oberheim OBXD. And this existed as a VST. So they just cross-compiled the code and redo the web interface. And they had some pieces of JavaScript or C++ code that emulate what is in the VST SDK. So, so with the microphone, I will need 3 arms to do everything. And these things, why design plugins if it's just for running them in a web page? So Jari co-created one of the DAOs that are available today online called Amped Studio. And today we've got 4 of them that all appeared the first version between 2015 and 2016. So let me show you a demonstration just of Amped Studio. So in Amped Studio, you could, it's a regular DAW, but if I'm adding an instrument, I can select the OBXD that you already just saw here. So the same plugin is being loaded here. And the one I showed also, this one is not free, but you could use the Europa plugin. I don't know. I'm making the sound with both of them. But the Europa, if you don't pay, you cannot record. But you can play as long as you like. And by the way, they also added some of my plugins here for making guitar sounds. So, okay, maybe I'm going to close these things. And I'm going to show maybe some demos later on, or maybe now. Maybe now, Okay, so I can also load, for example, one of my plugins here, and I can start playing. I hope that the latency will be okay. There is latency due to the HDMI output, and so you could really I prefer another sound, so I can, instead of this one, load another one. Okay, so this one is more harsh, like. So you see the idea, okay? Okay, let's go on. So, why not some guitar? Okay, instead of playing 3 chords like I did, we had some real professional testers, like with the same audio engine you saw when I did this demonstration. We got a professional guitar teacher. It's my guitar. So it was what you see are old versions of the plugins in another tool, and with exactly the same ARM sim designer, we can also create different kind of emulations. So this is more an acoustic guitar simulation that we were doing, and I talked with some people in the here yesterday, and what is the most difficult is to make good clean sounds and good high gain sounds. So we spent a lot of time doing this too. Okay, sorry for your ears, but this is complicated to do, to have something controllable. And this tool on the left was used to generate some configurations for the end user plugins that you saw in the DAWs earlier. Okay, let's go on. Oh, sorry. Okay, I've got too many stuff. Okay, so in 2014, 2015, some domain-specific languages started to compile to SMGS and later to WebAssembly, like FOST, Pure Data, C-Sound, and maybe others that I forgot. And I'm going to show you the FOST IDE because I participated in some parts. And so let's take some sound from GitHub examples or from the menu here. So you can simply compile the code, and you've got a GUI that is automatically generated. And if I select my sound card, I can take my guitar and start playing with that. Okay, and if you like that, I'll show you later that in a few seconds you can directly generate a reusable plugin. So, okay, I'm stopping that for the moment. So this was a revolution because the code was compiled in real time in WebAssembly. And the compiler itself, Stefan compiled it in WebAssembly. Everything is done client-side, what you saw. Okay, so 2018, Ableton come in the game. and proposed the Learning Since Ableton.com website. It's a sort of course for audio synthesis. So they did this to attract people to this domain, expecting that they would buy Ableton later on. Okay, so, sorry. So the demo is here. So all the sound is made by a synthesizer they have in Ableton that was created using Max MSP. They generated the C++ code, they cross-compiled the C++ code, and they used it as a library for writing all these demos. So and they've got a complete course about the basics of sound synthesis. So you could, for example, look how to make sound effects. Or, what can I show? They've got courses about how to use filters, to use oscillators. For example, pulse width oscillators are not available as a standard node in the Web Audio API. You've got oscillators, square oscillators, but you cannot change the phase. So they proposed that. So it was an impressive demonstration. And it showed that the big players were interested. And the guy who made that is now a member of the Web Audio Working Group and is meeting with us every week. So Ableton is preparing a lot of things. 2018, it wasn't created in 2018, but for me it was my personal discovery of the maturity of the live coding community. So this was a show, a performance given by Chris Robert, who created the Giber and the Genish live coding environments. Oh, the sound. What is interesting here is that you can see an enhanced source code editor that is displaying the different patterns, the different waveforms of what is creating with the live coding environment. So Charlie Roberts was one of the pioneers in this field, and now we had a submission, a paper submitted to the next Web Audio conference that will occur in July about Strudel, that is a port of Tidal to the web, and they've got also impressive demos. Here what is interesting is that you can see the webcam as a background, and you can see also an extended source code editor, the sound. So, sorry. Stop. Okay. So we had also earlier this morning impressive presentation about live coding environments. So this, but these ones are web available on the web. Okay. So 2020, Web Audio plugins became mature. So I show you already some plugins in Amped Studio. But what I'm going to show now is that we've got a wall chain. So we're proposing some SDK to the community, some repository with examples. We've got some tools that can produce Web Audio plugins quickly. And look at that. So this is the first IDE. Let me take a simple plugin like this one. I compile it. I can try it as I showed you earlier. Okay, this is an overdrive effect. So, oh, sorry. Doesn't work? Maybe I didn't choose the right. Okay, so I can try it, visualize. And then if I say, okay, I want to make it a plugin. So I go to this tool, UI Builder. Then from there, I can just select a texture. I can remove some things from that. Let's say remove this thing, remove this thing, change the look of the knobs, maybe change the fonts, whatever. Okay, I'm not going to personalize this for a long time, but if you click here, It's already published on a web server. We've got a web server for plugins that are created. I can try it in an iframe here. Okay, I can open it in a new tab, and it works the same. I can get the URL here, and I can try it in any compatible host. So we've got one host that is available online, where you can try your plugin. So if I'm just typing the URL here, the plugin is being loaded, and I can try it again. Okay, and I can look at the different, this is for developers. I can debug my plugin, look at the properties, look at the expose parameters, and I can check that the parameters are automatable if I am using this in a real DAO. So let me just show you how it works. So you can generate for all the different parameters exposed. You can generate automation curves and try them. So look at the buttons here. So maybe you can try like this. Okay. So you've got the ID, and we are providing lots and lots of examples, and in particular you saw this one already. So we are providing plugins written in JavaScript, in TypeScript, using build environment like Webpack, Parcel, Yarna, NPM, or whatever. The SDK is available also as NPM modules. And we've got also example compiled from C++, written in CSound, in Faust, and so on and so on. So maturity is here, and we started to present this standard to the different DAO makers. And the Amped Studio already adopted it. And we presented it to Soundtrap and to other vendors. What is interesting is that some developers created impressive applications completely out of Web Audio plugins. So this is a mix between Ableton and Google Docs. So it's a synchronous multi-participant sequencer. So I'm not. If you try it with several people, you can exchange a URL, and everyone will start creating components together. So you can add tracks, like in Ableton, and in the tracks you can add some segments. And if in one segment I can add some instruments. So this is a 1-2 plugin, the piano roll that you are seeing. I can add an instrument. I'm going quick because I see the time. So you can run it. And if you share the URL, other participants will see this, and if they turn the knobs and so on, everything is synchronous. And you can add an effect. So why not add, oh, I lost it. Maybe I can open it again. Where was my plugin? I lost my plugin. Okay, let me generate it ugly, an ugly version. So I've got my ugly plugin, okay, and I've got its URL, and I can use it in this sequencer directly. So I cut and paste the, where is the sequencer? Here. So I can enter the URL here, add, and you'll see my ugly plugin here that has been added, and then you can process the sound. Okay. Okay, I added a distortion to something that is not so cool, but okay. So you see the ID. So let me finish. I'm nearly done. So Roland came also in the game by porting all their historical drum boxes to WebAssembly and to the Web Audio platform. So let me show you that. It was called the Roland 50 project. So Roland50.studio. If you come there, it was available 26 years ago. So you can try all emulations of all their famous drum boxes. So, and you can switch between them, so you can compare the evolution and so on. So what they did is that they recreated themselves some VSTs that were numerical emulation of their analog drum boxes. They gave the source code to a private company they contracted that made the port. So this also, Roland, Propel RS, Ableton, well, We are waiting. We know that Arturia has also recreated a synthesizer for a web version. We know the guy who made that. So, yeah, the market is starting to be interesting. Last demonstration that was available a few months ago. It's a microtonal synthesizer and microtonal tuning design tool created by a company called Counterpoint with the help of a composer called Kyliam Alami. So I'm not a specialist of microtonal stuff, but what impressed me was the quality of the very high quality of what they did. So let me show you just a video, and you'll see that this is serious stuff. It's all in WebAssembly.
And everything else here is set. Long swells, creating a chord because I'm using forced polyphony. And then if we jump to the next snapshot, I've introduced another new track, this time in another subset, Maqam Huzam. Now I know that these different maqams are all interlinked. They use a similar subset, similar pitch classes.
Okay, so I'm running out of time, so you see the idea. So we've got really serious applications today on the web platform. So that was the idea. And finally, to conclude, for me, since I'm involved in the web technologies, I think that the web platform is magic. I never thought I will be able to create a tube guitar amplifier, well, at the beginning with JavaScript, running in a browser in real time. For me, it was something I could not imagine 10 years ago. And by joining the Web Audio API to other APIs, it opened to collaborative applications. Now we've got web machine learning. You can run neural networks directly client-side. You can download models that will be evaluated, and you can make, for example, emotion detection in a webcam picture live on the client side. You got a web codec API that is coming, so you can imagine having an editor for big audio files that last 3 hours. You work just on a chunk of it, and then you can recompress using the codec API directly client side. All the code will be in C++ in the browser and so on. So this was my last slide. I'll conclude by saying that web audio is a technology, but it really became a research field. And we've got a conference for that called the Web Audio Conference. The next one is in July in Cannes, and I am the co-general chair of the conference. So even if it's too late to submit, you can come. And it's free to follow it remotely. We will publish a link maybe a week before, and you are welcome. Okay, if you have any questions, I've got 8 minutes, because after that, I've got to run to the train station to take a train at in 20 minutes. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, you are happy because I showed first. Yeah, we are. Yeah, it's true that when I'm creating audio effects now, I'm using the FOST IDE, and I use FOST directly. I'm not coding anymore in JavaScript or using any other languages, because it's so fast to be exported to web audio plugins and being reusable that we mostly use this tool now. And Stefan wrote the compiler. Yes? Okay. So it's an interesting question because today, to attract native developers to the web audio platform is one big concern. So first, we had to provide the technological tools, but the business model is not yet clear. So for example, the big DAW makers, one of them accepts third-party plugins, and they reverse 50% of the income for the European market and 30% for the Chinese market. because they are also widespread there. But I cannot talk more about what exists. I don't know any professional developer living from the web audio technology. Usually they are selling VSTs, and also maybe they are proposing stuff for the web platform. And I know some professional developers, but they are just freelance developers, like the one who created the online demo of the Europa synth. Jari Klemola, I talked about him, he's a freelance developer. He's been working for Arturia, and now he's working for Ableton. But it's a bit private, we don't know really what they're doing. But I guess they are doing web ports and things like that. And there will be a big keynote by Hongchan Choi from Google at the next Web Audio Conference about this particular topic. What is missing yet to attract, to make a market out of this? Yeah? No? Okay. Yes?
Can you anticipate anything, about the conference? What do you think is going to be super interesting?
Oh, there will be sessions about, mixing 3D WebGL libraries with physics engines for generating music. And there is a special session that mixes really 3D physics engine ports of audio engines from the video game industry. So this is one big session, half a day. Then we've got a lot of things about collaborative music. Every year we've got this, like collaborative live coding, collaborative composition, and so on. We've got also some talks about performances. About all the WebAssembly stuff, we got some people who developed a real physical modelization of instruments that take only 4K of memory. So some guy from the demo scene of the old Amiga, Atari ST, and the trackers, the trackers tools from this time. We've got also, of course, talks about pedagogy, how to teach music collaboratively, remotely, and so on. Well, I don't remember all the presentation, but it will be interesting. And also we've got a keynote, like I thought I was an impostor about artificial intelligence, by the director of the Queen Mary big laboratory, Mark Sandler, that is well-known. And he said, but now, when I see what people say and publish about artificial intelligence, I think I am an expert. So I'm going to try to debunk all this hype. So this, I don't know what he's going to say, but it looks interesting. So, yeah. So I've got 3 minutes left. So maybe we'll end there. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, Michel. That was a great keynote. So today, the restaurant is closed. He's going to share the presentation with the link, in case you're interested. Today for lunch, the restaurant is closed, but we prepared a buffet outside for you. So I don't know if it arrived, but if it didn't arrive, it should arrive at around like 12 or 12:05 or something like this. And so we'll be back here at 1:30 for the next session. So if you want to go outside, enjoy the weather, and go to the buffet. Thank you.